Hello! Happy New Year! Well, today we're gonna make some hooch. Now, if you don't know, I make beer from time to time, so I have a lot of the beer stuff that you need. But today we're making hooch. This is the first time I've actually made hooch. I've made different versions. I've made apple cider, and I've made beer and ice beer, which is what I plan on doing with this hooch. Hooch, I'm calling it hooch because I don't know how to classify it. We're going to be putting, we're going to boil some water. It's going to be water, brown sugar, honey, yeast. That's it. And then later on, after it does its fermentation and everything, then we'll start messing with it a little bit more. Make an ice beer out of it. I don't know what I want to call it yet. Ice hooch. I don't know. We're making hooch today. So, let's see. I already told you. Water, brown sugar, honey, and yeast. Let's make some hooch. Alright, we're going to take the Texas honey that we have right here. Texas honey. And we're going to take some brown sugar. We're going to boil some water and dissolve everything into here. And then we'll go to the next step. Alright, this is going to be my carboy. I'm about to clean it. I'm cleaning it with iodophor. Right here. With, if I remember right, is an iodine based cleanser. One capful will clean this whole 5-gallon carboy here. I have my, if you see the hash marks here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gallons marked, so I know how much. There is a thermometer on here that tells me the temperature of the inside, and if you can see it, it says lager and ale. That's for the beer side of it. For this, it doesn't matter. And so I'll get that all cleaned up, and we'll go from there. Alright, this is the yeast starter. Let's see. Active dry yeast. You can get this in the bread aisle at the grocery store. And so that's what we're going to use. It looks like this. And I'm just going to spoon it in. This is dry yeast, so we have to hydrate it and wake it back up. So remember, yeast eats sugar, farts CO2, and poops alcohol. So that's what yeast does. Here it is right here. Red Star Active Dry Yeast. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to mix this all around and get it all hydrated. And then we'll go on to the next. We'll add it to the sugar mix. Alright, the brown sugar's in. You want to keep that stuff stirring, keep it moving. You do not want to burn the sugar, especially on the bottom of the pan, or your wife will kick your butt. So I'm going to add the honey, and then we'll let it cool off a bit. Here's the yeast. It's all rehydrated, and kind of looks like condensed milk. There's millions and millions and millions of little yeast in there. Yeast is a living thing, and this is what's going to ferment our stuff for us. Alright, I've got the, I added 3 gallons of water to here, and all the sugar mixture. Sorry for the shaky camera. And this right here, I'm going to take a gravity reading. This is where the science comes in. You'll need this and a hydrometer, which is got a lead base and it's glass. It will float, and I don't know if you can see that on there, but it's got different numbers and readings. So what we're going to do is get it in here, and I like to wet it and then spin it. And then there's a calculation that you can do to see what amount of alcohol is going to be in there. So stop spinning, stop spinning. It is at 1.045 is what I'm going to call it. I think that's right. No. 1.052. 1.052 is the original gravity, is what that's called. Later on, we'll do another gravity, and that'll tell us our alcohol content. So that's the hydrometer. Like I said, I brew beer, so I have most of this stuff. You can get it at any brewer shop. You can find them online. So now we're going to add the yeast. Alrighty. Now we're going to add the yeast, and that's about it for this section of it. So let's add some yeast. The yeast are hungry. Here we go. I always like this part. Look at that. And the yeast will go in there. They're going to start to eat the sugars and do all their thing. And one thing you're going to need right here is just a little blow-off cap. It's got water in it, and it lets the air out, but doesn't let any air in. So we'll just put that on the top and let it sit until this thing will start bouncing up and down as the CO2. The CO2 is going to start coming out, and when it stops bouncing, then the fermentation's pretty much done, and then you've got alcohol in there. See if it'll start going. It's probably a little soon. A few bubbles, but you can see some bubbles here. The yeast is going to make its way down. I'll probably shake it up a little bit and get it going. So that's that. That's it. After you get the yeast in there, you will it'll start to ferment. It'll start to bubble and kick off that CO2 and start making alcohol for you. And let's see, it'll take 5-7 days, but when you see that fermentation, you see that thing at the top stop moving and the CO2 slowed down, then the fermentation is slowing down. The yeast are running out of stuff to eat. And you can keep feeding it if you want. You run the risk of exhausting your yeast. They get tired, they get bloated, fat, lazy. So you can keep feeding it if you want. Put a little bit more sugar in there, a little sugar water, however you want to do it, a little more honey. But they're going to need nutrients and stuff like that. You got to keep your yeast healthy. I mean, they're a living being. So this will be part 1 of Hooch. And when everything's done, then we'll start messing with the Hooch, and we'll make some ice Hooch or something. Hooch. Hooch. Hooch! Well, I hope you learned something. Once you learn the basics of how to make alcohol, the yeast, and like I said earlier, yeast eats sugar, farts CO2, and it poops alcohol. Once you do that, once you know that, you can start messing around. And I know the home brewers, the guys that make the beers and stuff. I do that. I follow a recipe sometimes and do all that, but I'm a bit of a mad scientist. I like to mess with it. And I know the home brewers will be like, no, don't use bread yeast. And it's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. So that's it. This is part 1, and part 2 will be later on once it's done fermenting and everything. We'll start messing with it. So I hope you learned something. Anyway, see you later. Have a great day.